Hitmonchan going to be tanking the Sacred Sword, and ouch, that hurts. Hitmonchan, not the bulkiest, especially in its shadow form. Then throw 4 counters and the close combat Cobalion about to be returned to its Pokeball, just a Pidgeot left. Flyers should be countering fighters, however Hitmonchan doesn't give a fuck about typings. GG's and thanks for playing. Welcome back to the channel. This season has been quite problematic for me, probably because I've been on holiday for a lot and I'm not playing the best. We are stuck in the trenches around 2200 ELO. However, does that mean I'm going to be running something more meta? Probably not. We're out here repping my level 50.5 Shadow Hitmonchan. You can see from the intro, my god, does this thing put in work. We're going with my favourite double dark poison backline. So without any further ado, let's jump into the battles. And in game 1, we're going to be leading Shadow Hitmonchan into Komodo. This is the battle of the fighting glass cannons. Hitmonchan actually has the higher attack stats, so we could win CMP. However, you don't want to throw the Ice Punch as soon as you get it, as the opponent would sneak an entire Dragon Tail. We're then going to throw 1 counter and the Ice Punch. When you're on an ABB team, you always want to pivot. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw 1 more counter and the Ice Punch. I'm going to instantly pivot, hoping to catch a Dragon Claw. The second Ice Punch draws the final shield, and there's the catch onto the safe switch of my Hondo Shadow Drapion. Drapion tanks the Dragon Claw. I am mindful the opponent might try and catch, however they stay in. Crunch, even resisted, is going to be getting rid of Komodo. Let's see what the opponent has in the back for me. The opponent comes in 2 Ferrothorn, and this is not the best matchup. They bank some energy, pivot out into their own Shadow Drapion. And now Skuntank looking prime to close. We've got access to double super effective Flamethrower. We make crunch number 2 on the CMP tie. My IVs are 15, 15, 15, so I'm never losing CMP. The opponent now going to dump their energy. Crunch doesn't take me out, so I'm going to pivot into Skunk because I don't want to give the opponent any free farm. The opponent can quite literally throw whatever they like. They go for their crunch. We don't get debuffed. I am going to commit to the poison jab farm down. The opponent makes 1 more charge move. Trainer, you my good friend should be top left in, however you ain't, so eat the flamethrower, double super effective. We don't get same type attack bonus, but the opponent still gets 1 shot, and that is going to be all she wrote. Moving on to the next battle, we see Steelix in the lead. Despite them being a steel type and us being a fighter, they've got access to Psychic Fangs. Hitmonchan is so glassy, however Steelix just tickles. We tank the Psychic Fangs and we're going straight for it. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. Close combat, absolutely one-shots. The opponent momentarily brought in a Galarian Slowbro, however as we pivoted out, we've drawn out another steel type. So this opponent's actually running ABA Steel, which is probably why they stayed in the lead matchup. However, this is how the team's meant to function. We've looked to draw out something that our Skuntank doesn't want to see. Earthquake does return us to our Pokeball. I can now send back in Hitmonchan, and Count are going to eat this bear trap alive. We throw the Ice Punch on the CMP tie. As the opponent has 2 shields, I don't want to lower my own defense. The opponent actually calls it, but we now know we are going to survive a Rock Slide. Galarian Stunfisk, not known for its attack stat. There's the attempted snipe. We save the Hitmonchan and pivot out into Skuntank. As the opponent still has 2 shields, this could get somewhat tricky. The confusions are single resisted, however my Skuntank has really scuffed IVs. I'm on a 9, 14, 11, so they're still chunking. We're going to start shielding up absolutely everything. We throw the crunch, we don't get a debuff. Again, I am going to take the extra. I think at this stage now, I might be able to poison jab farm all the way down and then double crunch. Let's see, I go for the poison jab farm down. The opponent survives on 1 HP and a dream, and we're in a big yikes situation. Psychic takes me out, the opponent pivots out into Stunfisk, that gets farmed down, and 1 counter is going to be able to take that game. Moving on to the next battle, we see Dragonite in the lead. Possibly double steal in the back, a team I did showcase on the channel the other day. We are going to shield up the Dragon Claw, and we're going to be getting a shield back. Dragonite's pretty much shield everything, however we've got access to double super effective Ice Punch. The opponent shields it up and I pivot into Drapion. The opponent sends out Cobalion. So my team reader double steal, looking pretty promising. Drapion, in my opinion, used to be the best safe switch in the entire Ultra League. However, when the Swords of Justice got access to double kick, you can get stuck in this really terrible matchup. However, as always, Drapion puts in work. We can spam out crunches. If we get a defense drop, like there, the opponent is now going to be forced to throw. There's no point in shielding this up, as we obviously won't be taking back switch. We can send back in Hitmonchan. We are going to have to eat 1 Sacred Sword. However, this strange looking goat thing doesn't hit particularly hard, so we are going to be able to tank it. And we're going to leave pretty much with an Ice Punch. I'm instantly going to pivot Into my Skuntank, the opponent's got Tapu Fini in the back, so the only win con at this stage would be to shield once and hope I can poison jab farm all the way down. Unfortunately for me, this isn't a Shadow Dragonite. You're going to see they're going to survive on minimal HP. If that was a Shadow, we would actually survive. However, they are not, so it looks like we're going to lose. RPS for the win, however, not in my favour. GG's to that opponent. Moving on to the next battle, we see another spicy fighter in the lead. A Pokemon I really like, to be honest, Chestnut. It does completely wall Galarian Stunfisk, and everyone hates that stupid bear chap. I attempted to catch a Frenzy Plant on Drapion, I was unsuccessful. However, we can easily tank the superpower. The opponent sends out Walrein. I attempt to CMP tie to the Icicle Sphere. The opponent doesn't throw. However, they then ironically CMP tie me on the next crunch. This crunch gets Walrein super low. This opponent then makes a really heads up play. They no bubble the Icicle Sphere, allowing them to Powder Snow, farm down Drapion, so they have now got a move. However, one counter will be taking them out, so we can come into Hitmonchan, absorb the Icicle Sphere. Switch advantage isn't really that important to me, as we've got two decent responses for Chestnut. We tank the Icicle Sphere, let's see what the opponent brings back out. Chestnut does have a superpower banked, however Hitmonchan is going to win in the CMP tie. I actually go for the Ice Punch, which is super effective. It isn't enough to knock out, but is going to put him in a range where he can poison jab farm down. I'm just going to allow Hitmonchan to go down. I hope Skuntank can clean up in the two-shot as Charizard in the back. So this is going to be the bait game. The opponent builds up to the Blast Burn. I dare the opponent to throw it. They go for the Dragon Claw bait, and that should allow me to win this game. I've got no intentions of throwing another charge move. The opponent throws the Dragon Claw. The opponent now recognises I'm going for the fast move beatdown. They commit to as much wing attack damage as physically possible. However, Skuntank far too good. GG's and thanks for playing. PV Pokes actually got this thing ranked at 104. However, I think it's objectively better than that. Moving on to the next battle, we see Charizard in the lead. Big yikes. We see the pivot into Drapion. We are going to get off the crunch before the opponent builds up to a potential Blast Burn. Crunch going to do some decent damage to Charizard. When you're using Shadow Pokemon, people love to bait, so I'm going to call this one. The opponent goes for the Dragon Claw. The opponent is going to reach one more Dragon Claw. However, even with my Hundo IVs, which means I'm not very defense weighted, that isn't enough to knock out. The opponent then sends out Venusaur. Venusaur is going to be able to farm down. However, even on this sliver of HP, we should make two moves. Drapion makes the second crunch. This might even force a shield from the opponent. The opponent does commit that shield, then get the Vine Whip farm down. However, unfortunately for them, we've got another Dark Poison, which is going to be a pretty good damage sponge. However, my Scuffed IVs don't tank these moves particularly well. Frenzy Plant, without a doubt, one of the best moves in the entire game. I do give my shield back on the second Frenzy Plant. I do manage to jab farm all the way down. We're in the 1-to-1 shield. The opponent sends out Giratina. I'm going to bank a boatload of energy. I did attempt to catch a move on Hitmonchan. The opponent sends back out Charizard. However, this is just a Dragon Claw. We're going to be able to tank this easily. We get the resisted counter farm down. We throw the Ice Punch on the CMP type. Ice Punch is super effective. Despite our super high attacks, that Giratina is an absolute tank. As we still have a Protect Shield remaining, this game is essentially over. We're now at the back-to-back crunches. I think I'm actually at 100 energy. The first crunch will be forcing the final shield. I'm just going to shield up whatever Giratina throws. Then we're going to win CMP. And the second crunch is going to be all she wrote. GG's and thanks for playing, trainer. Skuntank again coming in clutch in the closing position. In the next battle, we see another huge yikes lead. We pivot into Drapion and we're pretty hard countered. Again on the safe switch. Drapion does have access to Aqua Tail, which would make this matchup somewhat better. However, I really wouldn't recommend that. Aqua Tail, a pretty trash move, and it takes about 4 to knock out Stunfisk. So even if you had that, you still aren't flipping switch. The opponent full sends the Earthquake. I can now send back in Hitmonchan. The opponent actually threw, after 6, they're one short of an Earthquake. So no, this is just a Rock Slide. I've got no idea why the opponent didn't commit, but I'll take it. The opponent sends back out Galissapod. Close combat is resisted, but Hitmonchan really doesn't care about typings. It still does almost 50% of the HP. We send out Skuntank and it's Regi in the back. This is going to be what I like to call the game of counting. So it's time to come to school. People always ask me how I count lock-ons. So I'm just counting my own fast move. For every poison jab I do, the opponent is getting 2 lock-ons, which is 10 energy. So what I intend to do here, I'm going to play out the 2 shield. I'm going to catch a move on Hitmonchan. The opponent's Tin Can did get the attack drop, but you can still see that Flamethrower does some decent damage to one of the bulkiest mon in the league. The opponent's heavily overpalmed. I know they built up to 100, so stay in school kids, learn to count. We sack the Hitmonchan. Can Skuntank pull off another game? The opponent sends out Glisserpod. We are going to fire off the Crunch on a CMP type. Crunch draws the final Protect Shield, and this is now going to be game over. The opponent throws the Liquidation. That gets me fairly low. I overfarm just enough to outpace the Registeel. Crunch will be one-shotting this silly bug. Back out comes Registeel. They're probably in crunch range. However, as I'm counting, I know I make the flamethrower, so we're going to go for it, and that is going to be a good game. GG's. Moving on to the next one, we see Articuno. Despite them being a flyer and me being a fighter, this is pretty neutral, as they aren't using any flying type moves, and the ice subtyping means all our fighting stuff is neutral. The opponent throws the Icy Wind, we then throw one counter, and the close combat even debuff. This is going to do huge damage. The opponent commits a shield, and we're going to pivot into Drapion. The opponent is going to debuff us before leaving, which is going to be super annoying. Icy Wind doesn't do too much. However, the opponent now sends out Obstagoon, which is going to mean they're definitely going to maintain alignment. Sludge Bomb debuff doesn't do too much. With my Hondo, I actually two-shot Obstagoon with the Poison Stings. However, with a debuff, that absolutely isn't happening. The opponent throws the Cross Chop, which does take us out. As I have shield advantage and the opponent has shown Cross Chop and come into Hitmonchan, I can return the shield and leave with another close combat. You can see we are quite low in health, however the counters are double super effective. Obstagoon gets deleted. The opponent attempts to snipe with Armoured Mewtwo, and here comes Skuntank. The opponent attempts to catch a Crunch on Articuno. I hold my energy, I overfarm. Fire off the Crunch. Is this where the opponent invests that final shield? No, they don't. Crunch doesn't knock out. We jab down. Holy shit, Skuntank, you're a fucking monster. My god, is Skunk going to close another game? We throw the Crunch. The opponent commits that shield. Am I going to call a Psy Strike? No, I'm not. I am going to commit the shield. The opponent throws the Rock Slide. Skuntank is going to win CMP on the next Crunch. And it's going to be High Mewtwo by Mewtwo. Skuntank. Super expensive, but my god, is it worth the investment. In the next battle, we see the GOAT in the lead. And for you returning subscribers, I don't mean Shadow Swampert. I mean that silly Cobalion that looks like a goat. The opponent pivots into Giratina, and we send out Drapion. The opponent is on Dragon Breath, so I do need to be mindful. The opponent can take back Switch. I am going to match shields. The opponent gets the Ancient Power boost. Holy crap. I really don't want Skuntank aligned with Cobalion. We have got access to Flamethrower, but only does about 60%, and they are going to be resisting the fast moves. The opponent commits that final shield. Again, they throw the Ancient Power. Drapion is going to outpace 2 Crunches, but is 2 Crunches going to be enough? Who was worried? The opponent does play out the 2 shield, but Drapion still maintains alignment. The second Crunch is going to take him out, and the boost probably did me a favour, as it doesn't allow him too much farm. The opponent's got Pidgeot in the back. Skuntank has without a doubt been the MVP so far in the video. However, now we're going to use it as the meat shield. The opponent frays the Brave Bird. I anticipate the switch. There comes the GOAT, and here comes Hitmonchan. Can Hitmonchan close out this game? The opponent is now drawing. I'm going to throw 4 counters, and the close combat will be one-shotting. Pidgeot will return, and flyers are supposed to counter fighters. However, Hitmonchan is about to nuke this bird back to its ball. GG's, and thanks for playing. I don't think there's anything more satisfying than Hitmonchan nuking Pidgeot. In the next battle, see Venusaur in the lead. I'm going to attempt to catch the Frenzy Plant on Drapion, and the opponent does spam out the Frenzy Plant. So that's nice for me. Frenzy Plant doesn't do too much. The opponent now sends out Obstagoon. With the chip damage, they are going to maintain alignment. The opponent goes for the Cross Chop. Drapion survives. We are going to make the Sludge Bomb, and Sludge Bomb is going to do some heavy neutral damage. You can see, like I said earlier, 2 Sludge Bombs with the Poison Stings actually nukes Obstagoon. I don't know if it's because I've got a Hondo IV. I think maybe if you've got a defense weighted one, it probably wouldn't, as it's pretty close. We can now send out Hitmonchan. Look to go for the counter farm down. The opponent sends back out Venusaur, and this is where the Ice Punch coverage is really nice. It does hit 4 super effective. I then send out Skuntank. The opponent's got the Walrus in the back. It looks like they're not even going to bait the Earthquake. They're going straight Icicle Sphere. I'm going to allow the first one to go through, and you can see there, with this season's buff, that actually is a lot more than I was expecting. However, we do tank 1. I'm now going to throw in intervals of 5. That's really important. As we win CMP, I'm just going to maximise my energy all the time. This season's been super annoying. I've been getting a lot of frame drops, so I really hope I don't lag a turn. We do throw the Crunch on the CMP tie. Does the opponent invest that final shield? No, they don't. And now I'm in a bit of a tricky spot. Do I commit the final shield here? Yes, I do. The opponent's going to send back out Venusaur. I'm going to look to force the final shield here. The opponent is going to look to commit to the Vine Whip farm down. However, we've got an Ice Punch bank, so we go for the wham bam combo play, serving up that Big Mac and the Fries Ice Punch. Does one shot and one counter takes out the Walrus. Moving on to the next one. This battle is without a doubt one of the funniest battles I've seen all season. We hard lose lead. Who the heck runs Gallade in the Open Ultra League? I really am struggling to think, what the fuck does Gallade do? To be honest, I've seen quite a few people running Toxic Rogue, so perhaps the opponent's got a bigger brain than me. The opponent then answers my Drapion Safeswitch with an Empoleon. This isn't the best matchup, as they obviously do resist the Poison Sting damage. However, I'm going to look to force all shields down. This crunch will be taking them out, so hopefully the opponent invests that final shield and then Skuntank again can close. The opponent is now going to be able to waterfall farm me down. That is where my IVs let me down. We die with the move. I'm going to come into Hitmonchan. We are going to absorb whatever they throw and spam out into Skunk. Skuntank gets a running start. However, they've got Aggron in the back. So if my IVs were even slightly better, we'd actually manage to easily win this game, as Hitmonchan would delete Aggron. You can see the opponent is absolutely tearing through me with the smackdown damage. This crunch is going to take him out. However, we've got hardly any HP. The opponent is going to be able to confusion farm me down. And I don't think Hitmonchan is even going to survive 2 confusions. The opponent throws for no reason whatsoever. This is going to allow me to make an Ice Punch. Gallade is super glassy. However, Ice Punch won't knock out. And we lose to another Spice Lord. GG's. Huge shout out to that opponent, as I actually don't mind losing to Spice. And without a doubt, that's the spiciest team I've seen all season. Yet another Venusaur in the lead. What the heck is going on? I know my Elo is in shambles, but really? I think Venusaur's got an interesting place in this meta, to be honest. With Trevenant nerfed, is Venusaur now the best grass type you can run? It's questionable. I think it's a toss-up between Venusaur, Trevenant and Virizion. Venusaur obviously super dominant against stuff like Swampert, against counter users like Obstagoon, Scrafty, and of course all them stupid Charmers. I might actually use Venusaur myself. If you want to see Venusaur Shadow, post it down below. However, I am getting somewhat sidetracked. I do believe I denied Walrein there. However, we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. If in doubt, I think it's safer to say you didn't deny, because if you'll get hit with 2 Icicle Spheres, I will get taken out. So I am going to throw 4 in case I didn't deny. It looks like I did actually get the deny. So Inferior could have countered down. However, Ice Punch does take him out. We're going to spam out into Skunk. The opponent's got Charizard in the back again in the 2 shield. This is pretty good for me. I normally always call the first one as a Dragon Claw. I've got no idea why I shield. And of course I get baited. The opponent then sends out Venusaur. We can tank a Frenzy Plant, but this is going to do a lot of damage. However, this is going to allow me to farm down. The opponent has 2 shields remaining, and I'm just going to shield up the next Dragon Claw. We are going to be able to outpace to the back-to-back crunches, which will force both Protect Shields. However, then I need my Switch Timer to pop up. I can't allow myself to get Wing Attack farm down, as despite me having a move on Hitmonchan, I'm going to lose CMP. Switch Timer does pop up. We go for the Snipe, and that is going to be all she wrote. Very, very questionable gameplay from me, but we managed to take the dub. Moving on to the next battle. We see Poliwrath in the lead. Poliwrath, a Pokemon you really don't see. However, a Pokemon that I often use. Until I made Shadow Hitmonchan, I used to run Poliwrath double Dark Poison. The opponent goes for the Scald. I'm then going to overfarm, throw the Close Combat. Close Combat going to be doing a lot of damage. The opponent shields it up. We're going to throw the next one on the CMP tie. Is the opponent willing to invest both Protect Shields? No, they're not. We're going to pivot into Drapion. What does the opponent have in the back? They've got Skuntank. Huge shout out to this opponent. Repping my own team. You love to see it. However, unfortunately for the opponent, down a shield, this is just not a winnable game. The opponent builds up to a potential Flamethrower, and I'm going to call it. The opponent then goes for the Crunch Bait, which is an easy tank. I then send out Drapion, and Drapion is going to be met with a load of residual energy. Crunch does land. We're then going to throw the next Crunch on the CMP tie. Crunch will be getting this thing down below 50% HP. I'm just going to allow Drapion to go down. I think at this stage now, as they've got a defense job, I can just come into Skuntank, look to go for the resisted Poison Jab farm down, and then just double Flamethrower the Skuntank in the back. The opponent can throw whatever they like. Crunch actually has quite a lot of damage. Shadow and Shadow Crime. However, this game is over. There's no point in baiting. We throw the Flamethrower, and Flamethrower is going to be all she wrote. GG's to that opponent. If on the off chance you are watching, I'd love to feature your battles. Moving on to the next one. We see another battle of fighters. Sirfetch'd pretty scary for my entire team. The opponent baits me with a Night Slash. Both Night Slash and Leaf Blade cost the same energy, so I did respect it. Sirfetch'd will be winning CMP, so I throw one before the next charge move. The opponent lets it go. We are down a shield, however, we have alignment. The opponent sends out the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Bird of Death, I am going to throw the Crunch before the opponent reaches the potential Brave Bird. The opponent does commit that shield, then overfarm by one. I really can't afford to go down 2 shields. The opponent full sends the Brave Bird. I am going to be switch locked when I come back in. So I'm going to wait on my full timer, send in Skunk. The opponent obviously going to reset their debuff, and they've got Swampert in the back. The opponent goes straight Hydro Cannon, so this is definitely playable. Like I said earlier, my Ries and Skuntank are scuffed, so I'm going to throw on CMP, anticipating I'll win. I actually lose. My Skuntank has 160 attacks, so that means I checked on PV Poke. This Swampert has an 11 attack stat or higher, and that's brutal. However, much like the opponent, we are running some attack-weighted Pokemon. So shout out to that opponent going for the big frame player, throw the close combat, taking out Swampert. However, Talonflame is going to clean up the back line. Speaking of attack weighted Shadow Swamperts, I've actually built 3 now for the Great League because I always get pissed off when I lose CMP. The opponent has the Brave Bird loaded, and that's going to be all she wrote. Yikes, Gengar in the lead. This is a huge problem for us. However, 2 better responses in the back. I safe switch into Drapion, the opponent sends out Machamp. Come on, trainer, call the bait. I full send the Sludge Bomb lands. This is going to allow me to take back switch. Like I said earlier in the video, this is why you don't run Aqua Tail. Sludge Bomb, really nice nuke coverage for these fighters. We shield up the cross chop. We do get the Poison Sting farm down. The opponent obviously not going to return with Gengar, so they're going to be forced to show their third. The opponent's got Snorlax in the back. So a really cool non-XL team from the opponent. I realise at this stage I am going to lick farm down. I'm just going to bin Hitmonchan. I'm going to land this Crunch, save Drapion as a potential sack swap, and send out Hitmonchan. The opponent going to be throwing some energy. Despite the opponent having a Gengar shield, absolutely everything. This is just a Shadow Punch. So Shadow Punch isn't going to knock out, and we are going to reach an Ice Punch. Hopefully the opponent gives me a shield. Come on, Gengar, you know you want to shield. The opponent does shield. They then Shadow Claw farm me all the way down. And now I've got to be mindful the opponent has access to Focus Blast. I'll wait out my timer, allow me the chance to make a catch. The opponent builds up a boatload of energy easily enough for the Focus Blast. I'm going to respect it. Does the opponent full send it? Yes, they do. This is now going to allow me to make double Crunch. You can see I pause a turn, not allowing the opponent to catch. Again, I'm going to pause a turn, making sure the opponent doesn't catch. I see the Shadow Claw start. We make the back-to-back crunches, and that is going to be all she wrote. So for those of you wondering what I mean by pause a turn, so just stop tapping your screen, wait for the Shadow Claw animation to start. So in Gengar's case, you can see his little arm moving. In the middle of that, you can throw your move and the opponent's unable to switch out as they're stuck in the middle of that fast move. Moving on to the next one. We see the battle of the Shadow Fighter, Shadow Machamp, without a doubt the best Shadow Fighter in the Open Ultra League. That is because it's got a stab 35 energy charge moves, so spammy as a charge moves, and it's got great coverage moves like Payback and Rock Slide. So I am going to throw the Ice Punch one before the next cross chop. The opponent just lets it go, so we win lead, but at the cost of a shield. I'm going to pivot out into Drapion, and the opponent's got Charizard. Drapion is going to be able to reach the Crunch before the opponent reaches a potential Blast Burn. Crunch actually draws a shield. I think as I'm down a shield, there's no point in the opponent baiting, but I really hope they do. The opponent full sends the Blast Burn, the correct play from the opponent. I am still going to be switch locked, whereas the opponent isn't, so wait out my full timer, send in Skuntank. This is now really risky to call. I am going to respect the potential Blast Burn, and the opponent does full send. The opponent then sends out Nidoqueen, and big yikes. However, this is going to be somewhat playable. As I did wait out my full timer, switch timer will be popping up, and I have no shield, so I anticipate the opponent throwing the Earth Power as soon as they get it. This is why I always pause a turn, not allowing myself to get caught out like that. This is still really tricky. This is just a Poison Fang, so it's an easy tank. I know the opponent is going to be saving that shield for the Charizard, so I go for an undercharge here. I really need to leave with back-to-back moves, but I think I'm just too low. I go for the undercharge. Can we jab down? No, we can't. That team comp just a bit too rough for me. GG's to that opponent. So those were the battles with my level 50.5 Shadow Hitmonchan. Is it worth the investment? I'll let you decide. It was super expensive. It cost me over 700,000 dust, but it does have that huge nuke potential. So today is the start of the new Team Rocket takeover, so make sure you've got plenty of charge TMs, remove frustration off all your good existing Shadow Pokemon. There's also a new batch of Shadow Pokemon. I think the standout releases are a Lowland Graveler, which is going to be a monster in stuff like Halloween Cup and other limited Great League metas. You've also got Shadow Garchomp, which I really hope I obtain a good IV for. We also see the release of 2 nuke monsters. We've got Shadow Regirock that will be with Giovanni, which obviously has access to Focus Blast and Stone Edge. We also see the release of a new Shadow fighter, Shadow Hitmonchan, completing the Shadow Hitmon family. Hitmonchan with access to close combat and Stone Edge is going to be a phenomenal closer. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, a link to my battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thank you to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.